Hey guys, Sausage here. Released by Cointinue Games onto Steam on July 23rd, 2024, Midnight Ramen is a visual novel where you serve ramen to late-night customers, listen to their troubles, and help them however you can. But, as the bowls of ramen are cooked and served, troubles begin to brew in your own life as well. Before we start the review, I want to preface this by saying I received this product for free. To be clear, I did not purchase this game. The developer sent me a free Steam key. With that out of the way, let's start the review. The first thing I want to cover is the story. I want to get this out there before I say anything else. Midnight Ramen explicitly states they took inspiration from Coffee Talk for their game on their Steam page. While I don't want to compare Midnight Ramen to Coffee Talk is basically the gold standard when it comes to visual novels. So, I'm not comparing these two games to put Midnight Ramen down, but rather to see how it holds up against people's expectations. Anyway, while I hate to do it, I can't really say too much about the story of Midnight Ramen either, because after about 45 minutes to an hour into the game drops a massive bombshell that if I were to discuss it, it'd spoil a lot of the other 4 to 5 hours of gameplay. What I can say is this: you play as a 16-year-old girl named Homura, and you run a third shift midnight to sunrise ramen shop. Each night, you serve a handful of different patrons different meals, such as a variety of different ramens, assortment of drinks, and side dishes. Unfortunately, that's all I can really say about the story without giving away spoilers. I will mention though, I was gifted this game, and when I got it, I kinda sorta skimmed through the Steam page and thought it looked cartoonish and that I'd get around to it when I got around to it. What I missed was this trigger warning. This warning is not a joke. I found it emotionally difficult to finish the second half of the game due to these themes. While it was emotionally difficult to finish this game, that just goes to show how fantastic the writing of the game was. While Midnight Ramen took inspiration from Coffee Talk in terms of gameplay and storytelling, Midnight Ramen carved their own path in this niche that deserves to be respected and appreciated. Coffee Talk has a fantastic story, but ultimately, the characters and their problems are pretty minor compared to Midnight Ramen. In Coffee Talk, their issues pertain to problems at work or with relationships, while Midnight Ramen has a trigger warning about death and loss. The stark contrast between both themes of storytelling should speak for itself. While the game is emotionally heavy, in no way do I regret experiencing this storytelling to any degree. As for the art, you can tell a lot of time and effort went into making all the characters and all the different assets. In fact, my favorite art in the entire game is at the start of each night with the lanterns and the food ingredients. This art might not be everyone's cup of tea, but this art can definitely be considered cozy to the right person. The characters are clearly anime themed, and again, while that might not be everyone's cup of tea, they're still pretty good. The soundtrack in this game is nothing short of absolutely beautiful. It is an incredibly relaxing and calming lo-fi that can instantly change gears to a more melancholic, piano-heavy lo-fi when the storytelling changes course to something more dramatic or emotional. The soundtrack does more than carry its own weight in this game. I cannot say enough how much I enjoyed this soundtrack. For the most part, I didn't become tired of the music, but to say I never did would not be true, but rather those times of musical boredom were fleeting as well as few and far between. To say I disliked the music by any means would be an egregious lie. As for the gameplay, Midnight Ramen is a visual novel through and through, with the mechanics revolving around serving ramen with various side dishes and a drink for the customer to wash it all down with. With that said, the gameplay experience I had in Midnight Ramen was better than Coffee Talk. While in Coffee Talk, you get to choose from a handful of different ingredients, you can only choose 3 per drink, and those ingredients must be chosen in a specific order, otherwise the drink is considered wrong. You can draw art on top of the lattes you make if you want, but that's it. In Midnight Ramen, you get to choose which broth you want for your ramen, a regular or large size of noodles, you can choose how firm or soft to cook the noodles, you can choose which toppings go on the ramen such as soft-boiled eggs, seaweed, etc., and you can choose which drinks and side dishes to serve such as soda, green tea, pot stickers, tamagoyaki, and many more. Compared to Coffee Talk, Midnight Ramen has a lot more customization and leniency when it comes to food assembly, which I found to be much more enjoyable. Not to mention, right off the bat, you are given a recipe book for all the different types of ramen, completely filled out. In Coffee Talk, you're given a couple recipes for free, be it from your phone or from the customer, but for the most part, an overwhelming majority of these recipes are unknown and must be discovered through gameplay, most of which are learned from trial and error. It isn't that I didn't like discovering recipes, it was that I had to choose the correct ingredients and also place them in the correct order, and if I didn't, the customer would say the drink they received was close to what they ordered, but not quite right. In Midnight Ramen, you have a recipe book with all the different recipes in it. I appreciate that the developers included this, but I do wish there was a little more discovery and experimentation with the orders than what Midnight Ramen has. But ultimately, I'd rather have a recipe book with zero room for error than gameplay that tells me to take a guess, then tell me it's wrong as if it's my fault I got the recipe wrong, with those errors being as little as accidentally swapping 2 ingredients around. While the gameplay in Midnight Ramen is minimal, it's still much more in-depth than Coffee Talk. I didn't hate Coffee Talk's gameplay at all, but I was pleasantly surprised with how much more mechanics are involved with Midnight Ramen and the leniency of preparation as well. As for the price tag, Midnight Ramen costs $12 US, and I got about 6 hours of gameplay out of it while unlocking 12 of the 20 achievements. Not necessarily a bad price, and not necessarily a bad amount of time either, especially for a visual novel. But if money is a little tight, the price tag might be a little steep for the amount of time you'll get out of it. You can, however, go back and replay certain days if you were to serve a customer who didn't get a meal accurate to their order, which in my case was only 2 days. Aside from that though, there isn't much replayability. In Coffee Talk, I've heard that there are hidden dialogue options and even a hidden ending depending on the drink served, but in Midnight Ramen, I don't think that is much of a thing as it seems much more linear than Coffee Talk. This isn't a bad thing as not every game needs alternate dialogue paths or alternate endings, but a lack of replayability will affect the playtime, which will then affect the price tag. With all of that said, I give Midnight Ramen a rating of 8.2 sausages out of 10. The story is absolutely fantastic, but it should be explicitly stated that this game is not for anyone who is currently emotionally stressed due to death or loss of a loved one. The topics discussed in this game are incredibly deep and heavy that even I myself struggled to sit and read through. But again, even with that warning, the story in this game is not easily forgettable. The art is great as well, though I'll admit, I don't think it stands out to really grab your interest or full attention. I mean this with all due respect, but it almost looks like an anime-themed Flash game. That is not to say that the art is bad by any stretch of the imagination, I just mean it doesn't stand out enough to really be unique. Good and unique aren't exclusively mutual, and that's okay. The soundtrack is beautiful, whether it's something cheerful playing in the background while having fun with customers, or something in a minor key and melancholic while important story events are unfolding. The music did grow tiresome on occasion, but these moments were extremely few and far between. The gameplay is much more in-depth than I expected, be it from choosing how long to cook noodles to choosing what ingredients to choose from. On top of that, if you ever feel stuck, there is a recipe book to refer to that will help guide you in making the perfect bowl of ramen for your customers. The price tag might be a little steep for some, considering that it's $12 for 6 hours of gameplay with little to no replayability, so it might be best to catch this game on sale, but in terms of gameplay and narrative, it's quite fantastic. Again, I hate to compare Midnight Ramen to Coffee Talk, but Coffee Talk is considered the gold standard of visual novels, and in my Coffee Talk review, I rated that game an 8.2 out of 10 as well. To have an indie game even smaller than Coffee Talk earn a rating that is on par with the gold standard is quite an achievement. Midnight Ramen might not be for everyone, but to any Coffee Talk fans out there, I urge you to try this game. And that's my review of Midnight Ramen. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking and subscribing, but if not, just know that I appreciate your viewership nonetheless. I also stream on Twitch occasionally, and I also have a Discord for casual viewers and other content creators alike, so consider joining me on both of those platforms as well. I'll leave a link to everything in the description below. Anyway, I think I'm going to cut my video here. Mahoney out.